When a man pulls away, the instinctive reaction for most people is to panic. The emotional attachment kicks in, and suddenly fear takes over. Fear of losing him, fear of being abandoned, fear that something is wrong with you. This is where most people make a crucial mistake. Instead of responding with strength, confidence, and self-control, they react emotionally. They send long, desperate texts. They demand explanations. They try to fix what may not even be broken. And in doing so, they push him further away. The truth is, when someone pulls away, it is not always a reflection of your worth. It is often about them, what they are feeling, what they are experiencing, or what they are trying to process. But the moment you make it about you and start reacting out of fear, you begin to diminish your own value. You shift from being someone they were attracted to into someone who is chasing validation. That shift is deadly to attraction. Detachment is the key to regaining your power in any situation where someone is withdrawing from you. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing. It means you refuse to let your emotional state be dictated by someone else's actions. The moment you become emotionally detached, you regain control over yourself, your energy, and ultimately the situation. Now let's break this down even further. When you are emotionally attached to an outcome, meaning you are fixated on making him return, on making things go back to how they were, or on controlling his decisions, you are in a state of resistance. Resistance creates tension, and tension repels. You have to understand how energy works in relationships. When you desperately want someone to stay, you emit a sense of lack, a sense of insecurity, a sense of needing something outside of yourself. That energy is not attractive. People feel it, even if they cannot consciously explain it. It is the reason why when you chase, they run. On the other hand, when you detach, you communicate something completely different. You communicate that you are whole within yourself, that your happiness is not dependent on him, and that you are perfectly fine with whatever happens. This creates ease. It removes pressure. And most importantly, it draws him back in, because now you are exuding confidence instead of desperation. Think about it from a psychological perspective. When you feel like you have unlimited access to something, you do not value it as much. It is human nature. But when something becomes scarce, when it is no longer freely available, when there is an air of unpredictability, it triggers curiosity. It triggers desire. The same principle applies in relationships. If he pulls away and you immediately chase after him, he feels like he has control. He feels like he can take you for granted, that he does not need to put in any effort because you are always there, waiting, hoping, wanting. But if he pulls away and you do not react, if you do not reach out, do not seek reassurance, do not fall into an emotional spiral, that's when things start to shift. Now he is left wondering, why hasn't she reacted? Why isn't she chasing me? Has she moved on? Is she seeing someone else? Suddenly his mind starts working in ways that favor you. Not because you played a game, but because you stepped into your own power and refused to give it away. Detaching emotionally also gives you the space to assess the situation from a place of logic, not emotion. Often when we react immediately, we are acting from a place of fear rather than wisdom. But when you take a step back, when you allow yourself to breathe, you gain clarity. You start seeing the situation for what it is, not what your emotions are making it out to be. Perhaps he pulled away because he is dealing with personal issues. Perhaps he is testing the dynamic to see if you will chase. Perhaps he is unsure of his own feelings and needs space to figure them out. Whatever the case, your reaction determines everything. If you react emotionally, you confirm his decision to withdraw. But if you remain composed, focused, and unbothered, you shift the energy entirely. When you are emotionally detached, You are no longer operating from a place of need, but from a place of abundance. You know that you do not need him to feel whole. You know that if he returns, great, but if he doesn't, you will still be thriving. That energy is powerful. That energy is magnetic, and that energy makes people want to be around you because it signals that you are in control of your own happiness. The most attractive thing you can do when someone pulls away is to pull back as well, not as a manipulation tactic, but as a natural response to their actions. If they need space, give it to them. But while you are giving space, do not sit around waiting. Focus on yourself, elevate your mindset, improve your life. When you are happy and thriving without them, that's when they start wondering why they ever pulled away in the first place. When someone pulls away, the natural reaction is to seek answers. The urge to reach out, to demand clarity, to fix what feels broken can be overwhelming. The silence feels like rejection, and rejection triggers a deep emotional response, one that compels you to fill the gap, to force a resolution, to make the discomfort go away. But the moment you act on that impulse, you lose the one thing that could have made them reconsider: your absence. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you have, yet so many people misuse it or fear it entirely. They see silence as inaction, when in reality, silence is one of the loudest forms of communication. It forces the other person to sit with their own thoughts, their own decisions, their own emotions, without your influence clouding their judgment. When you remain silent, you shift the entire dynamic. You remove yourself from the equation, which forces them to confront their own feelings without distraction. When you constantly seek answers, when you push for explanations, when you keep the lines of communication open out of fear, you make it easy for them to avoid facing the real issue. They don't have to think about what they've done, what they might be losing, or what life would be like without you, because you are still there, offering your presence, your attention, your energy. But when you go silent, when you stop feeding the situation with your words and your emotions, you create a void. And human nature abhors a void. Think about how people respond to uncertainty. When something is predictable, when they know exactly what to expect, they stop thinking about it. It becomes background noise. But the moment something changes, the moment the expected response is missing, the mind starts working overtime. Why isn't she reaching out? Why hasn't she checked in? Has she moved on? Did she stop caring? That internal dialogue is far more powerful than anything you could ever say to them. This is why silence is so effective. It triggers curiosity, and curiosity is a powerful psychological motivator. When you speak, you remove the mystery. You give them answers before they even have a chance to ask the questions. But when you go silent, you let their own mind do the work. And when someone starts questioning, they start feeling, they start reflecting, they start realizing what they might be losing. Most people fear silence because they equate it with weakness. They think that if they don't speak up, if they don't fight for the connection, they are giving up. But true strength lies in restraint. It takes more power to hold back than to react impulsively. It takes more control to remain composed than to let emotions dictate your actions. When you master silence, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, you naturally command respect. Silence also allows you to regain your sense of balance. When someone pulls away, it creates an emotional imbalance. You feel rejected, uncertain, unsteady. If you react immediately, you are responding from a place of insecurity, which only reinforces their decision to distance themselves. But if you allow silence to do the work, you give yourself time to regain your footing, to detach emotionally, to see the situation from a place of logic rather than desperation. During this time, they will begin to feel the shift. They will notice the absence of your presence, your energy, your words. And absence is one of the most powerful forces in attraction. When something is always available, it is taken for granted. When it is suddenly missing, its value increases. The mind naturally fills in gaps. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop trying to prove your worth, They are left with their own thoughts. And often, those thoughts lead to realization. They start remembering the good times, the connection, the energy you brought into their life. But this only happens when you give them the space to feel it. If you are constantly present, constantly reaching out, they never get the chance to miss you. Silence also establishes boundaries. It sends a clear message. You are not going to beg for someone's attention. You are not going to fight for a place in their life when they are the ones pulling away. This is not about playing games. This is about self-respect. The moment you allow silence to speak for you, you shift the power dynamic. You are no longer in a position of waiting. You are in a position of strength. There is a reason why people are drawn to those who do not over-explain, who do not seek constant reassurance, who are comfortable in their own space. That kind of energy is attractive because it signals self-sufficiency, confidence, and emotional stability. When you show that you do not need to force a connection, that you are content whether they stay or go, you become infinitely more desirable. Most people never get to see the power of silence because they break it too soon. They let fear dictate their actions instead of trusting the process. They reach out too quickly, not giving the other person enough time to feel the effects of their absence. But when you hold firm, when you allow the silence to do its work, you often find that people return not because you chase them, but because they felt the weight of your absence. When a man pulls away, the first thing most people do is overanalyze the situation. They replay every conversation, every interaction, trying to find the exact moment where things shifted. They convince themselves that if they just had the right words, the right actions, they could fix everything. But this kind of thinking is not only exhausting, it is counterproductive. The more you try to control the outcome, the more you push it further away. Instead of looking outward for validation or answers, the real solution is to redirect that energy inward. The most powerful thing you can do when someone pulls away is to focus entirely on yourself. This is not about ignoring reality or pretending that emotions don't exist. It is about shifting your perspective from external dependency to internal empowerment. The moment you make someone else the center of your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions, you give them control over your life. And when you give someone control, you become powerless. You start making decisions based on what you think will bring them back rather than what is best for you. That is a dangerous cycle because it puts your happiness in someone else's hands. Focusing on yourself means taking back your emotional energy. Instead of wondering what he is thinking, you start asking yourself what you want. Instead of analyzing his behavior, you start analyzing your own goals, your own growth, your own well-being. The problem with obsessing over someone who has pulled away is that it keeps you stuck in a state of lack. You start believing that your happiness depends on whether or not they return, and that belief alone keeps you feeling small, unworthy, and insecure. But the moment you shift your attention back to yourself, everything changes. Think about it. When someone pulls away, they are creating distance. If you respond by chasing, you close the gap, which often makes them pull away even further. But if you respond by stepping back and focusing on your own life, you create space. And space is what allows people to reflect, to miss, to reconsider. When you are not constantly available, when your attention is not freely given, it forces them to question their own decisions. That questioning is what leads them back, not because you forced it, but because they felt it. The key is to channel your energy into areas of your life that build your confidence, your purpose, and your happiness. This is the time to invest in yourself. Physically, emotionally, mentally. When you start focusing on personal growth, you naturally radiate a different kind of energy. Instead of projecting neediness or desperation, you project strength. And strength is attractive. When you are thriving without them, when you are not waiting around for their return, they start to see you differently. You are no longer the person who is begging for attention. You are now someone they have to work to be a part of. When you focus on yourself, you also start to see the situation more clearly. Often when someone pulls away, we take it personally. We assume it means we are not enough, that we did something wrong. But when you step back and detach emotionally, you begin to realize that their actions have more to do with them than with you. Maybe they are dealing with personal issues. Maybe they are unsure of what they want. Maybe they are taking the connection for granted. Whatever the reason, it is not your responsibility to fix it. Your responsibility is to ensure that your own life remains full, with or without them. The mistake most people make is putting their life on hold, waiting for someone to come back. They stop doing the things that make them happy. They stop focusing on their goals. They become stuck in limbo, hoping that their absence will be noticed. But focusing on yourself is not about waiting. It is about growing. It is about becoming so fulfilled within yourself that whether or not they return becomes irrelevant. That is the ultimate position of power. This is also why self-improvement is so important. When you focus on your personal growth, you naturally raise your value. You become more confident, more magnetic, more desirable, not just to them, but to the world. When you are constantly evolving, when you are chasing your own dreams instead of chasing them, you become the kind of person that others want to be around. This shift in energy is what makes them rethink their decision to pull away. Think about how attraction works. People are drawn to those who have a sense of purpose, who are passionate about their own life. No one is attracted to someone who is just waiting, hoping, and doing nothing. But when you are actively improving, when you are building something for yourself, you naturally become more attractive. You no longer need them. You choose whether or not you even want them back. That choice is what shifts the power dynamic. The real transformation happens when you realize that your happiness was never dependent on them in the first place. It was always within you. When you reach that realization, when you start thriving on your own, you no longer worry about whether they return, because by then you have become the best version of yourself, and the best version of yourself never has to chase. The moment a man pulls away, emotions begin to take over. There is a natural instinct to react, to send a message, to call to demand answers, to seek reassurance. The mind starts spinning, creating scenarios, overanalyzing every word, every action. This emotional whirlwind often leads to desperation, which only serves to push him further away. The key to reattracting someone who has distanced himself is to maintain emotional control. When you master your emotions, you gain power over the situation instead of letting the situation have power over you. Most people fail in this area because they allow their emotions to dictate their actions. When someone pulls away, they respond with fear. Fear of losing them, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. Fear leads to impulsive decisions like sending long emotional texts, asking why things change, or trying to convince them to stay. These actions come from a place of insecurity, and insecurity is the fastest way to diminish attraction. A person who is in control of their emotions does not panic when someone distances themselves. They do not beg for attention or seek validation. Instead, they remain calm, composed, and unshaken. Emotional control is a skill that few people master because it requires discipline. It requires the ability to pause before reacting. Instead of immediately trying to fix the situation, you take a step back and allow the emotions to settle. This is where real power lies. When you do not react in a way that is expected, you create a sense of mystery. The person who pulled away begins to wonder why you are not chasing, why you are not seeking answers, why you are so calm. This makes them question their own actions rather than feeling validated in their decision to distance themselves. When you master emotional control, you radiate confidence. Confidence is one of the most attractive qualities a person can have. It signals that you are secure within yourself, that you do not need external validation, that you are perfectly fine whether someone stays or goes. This energy is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to those who exude self-assurance because it reflects strength and independence. A person who is emotionally stable is not easily shaken, and this creates a powerful presence. Think about it. When someone distances themselves, they are often expecting a reaction. They are expecting questions, desperation, a plea for clarity. When that reaction does not come, it forces them to reevaluate. They start to wonder if they made the right decision. They begin to feel the void that your absence creates. This is the power of emotional control. It allows you to maintain your dignity and self-respect while subtly shifting the dynamics of the situation in your favor. One of the biggest mistakes people make when someone pulls away is letting their emotions dictate their self-worth. They take the distance personally, assuming it means they were not good enough, not attractive enough, not lovable enough. This kind of thinking leads to low self-esteem, which in turn leads to even more emotional instability. But when you master emotional control, you understand that someone else's actions are not a reflection of your worth. You realize that their decision to pull away is their own, influenced by their own fears, doubts, and internal struggles. This understanding allows you to detach emotionally, to see the situation for what it is, rather than what your emotions want it to be. Emotional control is also about patience. When you are emotionally reactive, you want instant answers, instant reassurance, instant resolution. But attraction does not work that way. Attraction needs space to breathe, to grow, to rekindle. If you try to force a resolution, you suffocate the process. But when you remain patient, when you allow time to do the work, you give the other person a chance to feel your absence in a meaningful way. This is how true reattraction happens, not through chasing, but through controlled detachment. Developing emotional control requires self-awareness. It means recognizing when your emotions are trying to take over and consciously choosing a different response. Instead of reacting impulsively, you practice restraint. Instead of seeking immediate comfort, you sit with the discomfort and allow it to pass. Instead of letting fear guide your actions, you trust in your ability to handle whatever outcome arises. This level of control does not happen overnight, but the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. A person who has emotional control does not beg, does not plead, does not crumble when someone pulls away. They stand firm, knowing that their worth is not dependent on another person's presence. They do not need constant reassurance or external validation because they have built a strong foundation within themselves. This kind of energy is rare, and because it is rare, it is highly attractive. It creates a sense of intrigue, a sense of curiosity, a sense of longing in the person who has pulled away. When you master emotional control, you also protect yourself from unnecessary pain. You do not allow yourself to be manipulated by hot and cold behavior. You do not get caught in a cycle of seeking approval from someone who is uncertain about you. Instead, you remain grounded, knowing that no matter what happens, you will be okay. This is the ultimate power. The ability to remain in control of your own emotions while allowing others to feel the consequences of their own decisions. When a man pulls away, most people instinctively react with words. They try to explain, to plead, to convince, to negotiate their way back into his attention. But attraction does not work that way. It is not built through explanations. It is built through emotion. One of the most powerful ways to reattract a man who has distanced himself is through nonverbal communication. Energy, presence, and action speak far louder than any words ever could. Nonverbal communication is about the energy you carry, the way you move, the way you hold yourself. It is about your confidence, your self-assurance, and the aura you project. When a man pulls away, the worst thing you can do is send him a flood of messages trying to understand why. The best thing you can do is say nothing at all, allowing your presence or absence to make the statement for you. When someone distances themselves and you respond with silence, it forces them to feel the void you leave behind. This silence is not about playing games or manipulating. It is about self-respect. When you master the art of nonverbal communication, you do not need to chase. Your actions naturally pull people toward you. Think about how powerful body language is. The way you carry yourself in a room, the way you make eye contact, the way you move with ease and confidence. These are all signals that communicate who you are on a deep level. People are drawn to those who exude confidence without needing validation. When a man pulls away and you continue to carry yourself as if nothing has changed, it sends a powerful message. It shows that your world does not revolve around him, that you are in control of your own emotions, and that you are secure within yourself. One of the strongest forms of nonverbal communication is detachment. Detachment does not mean you do not care. It means you are not controlled by the situation. When you stop reacting emotionally, when you stop reaching out, when you continue living your life as if nothing is missing, it creates curiosity. It makes the other person wonder why you are unaffected. That curiosity is what sparks renewed interest. It is human nature. People want what they feel they cannot fully have. When you demonstrate that you are not waiting, that you are thriving regardless, you become more attractive. Think about attraction like a magnet. When you are too close, too available, too eager, you push the other person away. But when you create space, when you hold back, when you allow them to come to you, the pull becomes stronger. This is the power of nonverbal communication. It is about the art of presence and absence, the ability to create intrigue without saying a word. A well-timed glance, a confident posture, an air of mystery. These things create more desire than any words ever could. Another aspect of nonverbal communication is your lifestyle. The way you live your life sends a message. If you are constantly waiting by your phone, checking the social media, hoping for a message, you are energetically sending out neediness. But if you are busy, engaging your passions, thriving in your own world, you radiate a different kind of energy, one that is independent and self-sufficient. That energy is irresistible. When a man sees that you are not sitting around waiting for him, but instead growing, glowing, and moving forward, it shifts his perception. He begins to feel your value on a deeper level because he sees that you are valuable with or without him. Another powerful form of nonverbal communication is eye contact. A confident gaze can say more than 1,000 words. When you see him again, do not rush to speak. Do not try to explain yourself or ask questions. Simply maintain a strong, steady presence. Let your energy do the talking. The way you look at someone, the way you hold yourself, the way you pause before speaking, it all communicates confidence and self-respect. This is what makes someone rethink their decisions. Your tone of voice and the way you respond also play a huge role. When he reaches out, if you respond with frustration or desperation, he will feel it immediately. But if you respond calmly, neutrally, as if nothing is missing, it shifts the entire dynamic. It creates a sense of stability, of control, of strength. A simple, confident response holds far more power than a long emotional message. People are drawn to those who are in control of their emotions. And the more you embody that, the more attractive you become. Physical appearance also plays into nonverbal communication. This is not about changing yourself for someone else. It is about refining the best version of yourself. When you take care of yourself, when you dress well, when you walk with confidence, when you move with purpose, you send a silent message of self-worth. When a man sees you looking better, feeling better, living better, it triggers something in his mind. He starts to remember why he was attracted to you in the first place. He starts to question his own actions. And all of this happens without you having to say a single word. Another essential element is social proof. When other people value you, it makes the person who pulled away reassess their decision. If you are out enjoying life, spending time with friends, engaging in new activities, and not fixated on them, it speaks volumes. People are naturally attracted to those who are desired by others. When a man sees that you are still sought after, still admired, still thriving, it forces him to reevaluate. Nonverbal communication is a skill, a form of energy management. It is about what you project, what you withhold, and how you carry yourself in every interaction. It is about the silent messages you send when you walk into a room, the way your absence is felt more deeply than your words ever could be. It is about mastering the art of creating attraction, not through talking, but through being. The foundation of re-attracting a man who is pulled away is self-worth. It is not about tactics, tricks, or games. It is about becoming a person of such undeniable value that people naturally gravitate back toward you. Self-worth is the invisible force that determines how others perceive and treat you. When you truly understand your value, you do not chase, beg, or compromise yourself for the attention of another person. You stand firm in your identity, knowing that you are enough as you are. This mindset is what makes you attractive, not just in relationships, but in every area of life. When a man pulls away, the worst thing you can do is let it shake your self-worth. Many people fall into the trap of questioning themselves. Was I not good enough? Did I do something wrong? Was I not attractive enough? This kind of thinking erodes confidence and leads to self-sabotaging behavior. But a person with high self-worth does not internalize someone else's actions. They do not see someone pulling away as a reflection of their inadequacy. They see it as a reflection of the other person's mindset, circumstances, or internal struggles. They understand that their value remains constant regardless of how someone else behaves. The key to strengthening your self-worth is to stop seeking validation from external sources. Many people unknowingly place their self-worth in the hands of others, waiting for a text, a compliment, or reassurance to feel valuable. This is dangerous because it makes your confidence fragile, dependent on something outside of yourself. True self-worth comes from within. It is built through self-respect, self-discipline, and a deep understanding that you do not need anyone's approval to be worthy. One of the most powerful ways to demonstrate self-worth is through boundaries. People with high self-worth do not tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or mistreatment. They do not entertain situations that diminish their energy. When a man pulls away, a person with weak self-worth will do anything to pull him back, even if it means accepting behavior that goes against their standards. But a person with strong self-worth takes a different approach. They acknowledge what is happening, they accept it, and they decide that if someone chooses to walk away, it is not their job to beg them to stay. They operate from an abundance mindset, knowing that their value does not decrease just because someone fails to recognize it. Another major component of self-worth is how you treat yourself, the way you speak to yourself, the way you carry yourself, and the way you prioritize yourself. All send signals to others about how you expect to be treated. If you neglect yourself, if you constantly put others above your own needs, if you tolerate behavior that makes you feel small, you are communicating to the world that you do not value yourself highly. And when you do not value yourself, others will follow that lead. But when you treat yourself with love, respect, and care, when you prioritize your own well-being, growth, and happiness, you naturally attract people who mirror that same respect back to you. Self-worth is also about maintaining your independence. Many people lose themselves in relationships, making the other person their entire world. This is dangerous because when that person pulls away, it feels like the world is collapsing. But people with high self-worth never allow themselves to become overly dependent on someone else for their happiness. They have their own passions, their own goals, their own dreams. They understand that a relationship should be an addition to their life, not the sole source of their fulfillment. When a man sees that you are thriving on your own, that you are not waiting around for him to decide your worth, it makes him see you differently. It shifts the dynamic. Confidence is another pillar of self-worth. Confidence is not arrogance. It is quiet assurance in who you are. It is knowing that you bring value to any relationship, not because you are trying to prove something, but because you simply know your worth. Confident people are naturally magnetic because they do not seek approval. They already approve of themselves. They do not chase validation. They validate themselves. This kind of energy is rare, and because it is rare, it is highly desirable. One of the best ways to build self-worth is through self-improvement. When you invest in yourself, whether it's your health, your career, your personal growth, you elevate your own perception of yourself. When you see yourself growing, achieving, and becoming better, you naturally start to feel more valuable. And when you feel valuable, you exude confidence. This, in turn, changes the way others see you. A man is far more likely to be drawn back to a woman who is growing and evolving than to someone who is stuck in the past, waiting for him to return. Another powerful aspect of self-worth is emotional resilience. When someone pulls away, it is easy to fall into a cycle of negative emotions, sadness, anxiety, self-doubt. But people with high self-worth do not allow temporary situations to dictate their emotional state. They understand that they have control over their own happiness. They do not give their power away by allowing someone else's actions to determine their mood. Instead, they focus on what they can control, how they react, how they grow, and how they move forward. This level of emotional strength is incredibly attractive because it shows that you are in control of your own life. People are drawn to those who respect themselves. They are drawn to those who have standards, who know what they bring to the table, who do not compromise their dignity for temporary attention. When a man sees that you are not chasing, that you are not waiting, that you are continuing to thrive with or without him, it makes him reconsider. It makes him wonder what he is missing. But the irony is, by the time he realizes it, you may have already realized that you deserve much more.